Hey, how you doing? We're gonna start in like 3 minutes if that's cool. Thanks for being here. Oh, I see people in the chat. What's up? Thanks again for being here. About three, maybe 2 more minutes. So thanks again for being here. I'm gonna go ahead and get started if that's cool with you, and then we'll just wait for more people to come in. Thank you for being here and watching this Furious Flower Facebook Live reading series. For those of you who don't know, Furious Flower Poetry Center at James Madison University is the nation's oldest academic center dedicated to Black poetry. In the 25 years since the first Furious Flower Conference and the 15 years of the center's brick and mortar existence, Furious Flower programs have reached thousands of poets, educators, students, and poetry lovers around the world. From groundbreaking media and anthologies to summer seminars for educators and decade-defining conferences, Furious Flower has impacted literary communities on local, regional, national, and international levels by creating platforms for Black poets to encounter their readers and for readers to experience and engage with Black literary culture in new and exciting ways. This Facebook Live reading series is made possible by a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. Thank you to the NEA. And thank you all for being here. My name is Taylor Johnson. I'm from DC, and I'll be reading some poems from my first book, my only book right now, Inheritance, which came out in November with Alice James Books. Thank you again for being here. And I hope that we can maybe have a discussion after if you'd like to discuss with me. Since I quit that internet service, I'm thinking more about the transitive properties in books, the words, the palimpsest of images accruing in my brain, but more immediately the book in my hand, the cover worn at one end from sweat and gripping it when it comes close. Close as in when I stood up, let one deep exhale when I came to the line of all fearless happiness from which reaches my life I sing, and find it underlined by a beloved stranger. It's like turning the record over, knowing you're hearing what I'm hearing. Easing up on the edge of the chair, it's like we're holding hands now at the edge of a white silence from which we are to make a music of our being here, of being moved, wherein our music complements and holds close each other's sound in the wet room of the tree I met you in. Nothing is said about the water or the fearless trees angled toward and against the light that did fall on me, made much of me, light that sings through me, so I'm singing. Ecclesiastes. How to testify in the marketplace, for my voice was meaningless, was everything was meaningless, knee deep in the mud with my tongue out, monsoon, mason jar, morning glory, must I carry even the idiolect of gravel, glossolalia and stupor of all things, moving and unmoving. I fall in and I fall back out. Oh, exaltation. The Virginia pine grows straight up to deeper blue, and most taproots I'll never see. I was waiting for you to turn around, pretending none of this baffles me, not taking it personally. Consider the deer. Consider the deer who, when I say deer, doesn't know whether or not I mean a single one, though there were two dead and shiny with maggots on the side of the highway, or a group of them, always a bit lost in the divided woods, blame our need to reach or leave each other faster. Consider the deer that I saw dead on the shoulder, midday, mid-autumn, whose neck in post-rigor mortis pining broke itself again so that the head could face the woods setting itself alight. Oh, that I could turn and live again, the deer might say, recalling that one poet singing to himself, ruining the grass. Consider that the deer, when called, won't come alone, purely due to linguistic vagary, who, like me, resists the gesture toward singularity. Call my name, and the whole woods rise up inside me. I is a plural state of being. Consider the multitude before my footfall, how I'm able to crane my neck back, see only myself. Nocturne. What was rampant in me was not wisteria, perhaps decay or loss of reflection. No one like me gets old, or so I thought, even as I watched the days fade into each other. Was I no one, which phrase means a grown-up girl, mica gilded, pure myth, gone. Thoreau might say I was trying to find the door to nothingness, that the wild was already in me. However, I walked out my bed to find my skin, only to return, moon-drunk, bramble-laden, stripped to sinew, a broken syntax. No denying how I got here. I lay down among the tall grass and came up a specter. I came up everywhere. It's funny to not see you, but I know you're there. So thanks for listening. I'm just going to continue. It's my first time doing a Facebook live thing, so just getting used to the platform. Lincoln Town car. My grandfather would spell certain words so that the dog couldn't comprehend. OUT, FOOD. The dog, that little bear fighter, ran into the road one day, buried in the yard now. And the next dog, he waited in the back room for my grandmother to return heavy-footed from around the corner. And when she didn't return, he remained there, unreachable as language. Something was wrong if we left the country. Fluid around the heart, not enough movement, syrup for blood. Leaving meant taking showers and my grandfather fixing my grandmother's hair, all of us clean-shirted in the front seat of the Lincoln Town car. We shared a humid thought pressed as we were against the maroon leather, six-legged in the front seat. Before us the highway unraveled, sorghum and corn and soy collapsing as the wind fell, listening for light. I listened for muscadine swelling in the ditches on the waterlogged sides of the highway. I listened to the quiet narrow as we entered the city. I loved the language my grandparents spoke, saying nothing, holding both my hands. Was the pines that set off sound in them. My grandmother stared out the windshield and into the hills, saying, that man, that man. My grandfather shifted in his seat at the wheel, practicing owning something. I had a feeling that I was the last let into the kingdom of their distance. Something was owed. Neither side would spell it out. I counted the fallen pines as the car dipped through the hills in the tide water, lonely as a dog with the whole world inside. I counted the pines and put my voice inside them. So I'm from DC, and the indigenous music of DC is called go-go music. So the next poem I read is called Go-Go Ode. Um, and maybe if you're from DC, shout out in the chat. I don't know where you're from. Yeah, but this is called Go-Go Ode. Oh, capacious room, give me your tongues. I'm done with being self-possessed. Take hold, turn the river in me. I'm freed up to be anybody else. My molecules twinned with the sound. Oh, erotic hours, pass me not. Keep me in the pocket. Oh, percussive descent, devotion is anything you say go awry. In this early hour, keep me recursive. The impulse is to lose my feet. I'm yet overcome. You seismic drop, you sovereign fade. Oh, black chaos, I'm in study at your center. Turn me out. Club 2718. Because I don't have the juice or enough gold, anything to enter. A room that occasionally exists inside of me is the poorly lit dance floor of Club 2718. Thirst is a way of knowing, not knowing. I was on a gin-fueled hunt for big asses and music I could cry to. A woman almost twice my age asks where I've been, and she shuts the door. Like any American, what haunts me is my addiction to private property, not time or blackness. I want to love no one in particular the way I say I love my woman when she's in the doorway and mad at me. There were days I believed my grandfather owned my grandmother, kept her overfed and out of the sun in the back room. Occasionally a room exists inside of me where Johnny Hartman and John Coltrane's One and Only Love plays on repeat. On repeat, too, is a video of my grandfather dancing a limber leg shuffle and singing across the wall to my grandmother. To love like him is to be a student of regret. To abide by regret is to watch grief turn to ecstasy. I wept in the winter when I left my woman. I wept in the heat when she came back. Cool. Just reading these chats, y'all got some good comments there. Thank you for being here. West 177th and Broadway. All night you eyed the man I wanted to be. My jaw flexed tight. Anger slipped into desire. Easily he would rise. Easily you would disperse. Pleasure made into light. What you want under him I put on to amuse. I, your worked supplicant. Yes, love is looking away. My desire greened and your dismissal was technicolor and twilight made and never turning off. The city air hung humid above our charade. What need I could feel to transubstantiate, to unravel. This next poem, the title of it is taken from a go-go band in DC called New Impressions, and their song Clapper, Found Myself a Clapper. You can look it up on YouTube, just the band New Impressions. Shout out New Impressions. Though I'm practical and would rather watch the room fill and fold like a black sea turning over. I'll be your disciple. I'll follow where you pull me, which you walking before me makes me forget my creditors, pressing up on me in the house party, pressing on me so that I could be the wall holding up the house with my desire. Violent pleasure, I welcome your weight. You asked me into study, pressing up like that. I work for your weight against me. I was saying something like, I don't care about commerce when you kept asking that narrow question about my body. Baby, I'm undoing myself behind you. You shaking down to what the drums give, and I found myself inside this homeless groove you can't name. Can't name me except being given over to the usness we make for the next 90 seconds. Sometimes I feel so outside, then you invite me in. This is how I keep time, and I keep to it, you inviting me in. I forget about money watching the clouds over 8th and Ingraham, the clouds a rhubarbed colored ship in the sky. To my right it all grays out, the bats emerging now from the chimneys, the bats listening for the cicada's echo. Echo is a way to create space, is a metaphor for time. Time for the cop to move along, I think watching the cop watch me from my porch. Fuck 12, the robin on the wire vine, the wire eye competing with the bats for cicadas, the robin competing reds with the sky. The sky, a money for the cicadas, a way to make space time. The cicadas sounding out the future through repetition. A friend says to spend nothing is to keep flexibility in your hands, to keep your youth. Money, the sound of decay. Money, the repetition of waste. The title of this next poem is from an essay in Fred Moten's book Black and Blur, which is part of the Consent Not to Be a Single Being trilogy. And the I was studying with a friend, and a sentence came up that said the black proletarianization of the bourgeois form is X, Y, and Z. And I was like, what does that mean? And my friend said, oh, that's like Kanye West sampling gospel music to use in his music. And then I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then I was like, no, that doesn't make sense to me. So then I wrote this. The black proletarianization of the bourgeois form isn't Kanye West's gospel samples. O death, your singular eye, my mother speaks the king's English, makes quiche, makes clove pomanders in winter, pawned her flute, cleaned my elementary school classroom. What is hers? Brilliant song, my mother sotto voce in her chair, asking for touch. It is drowning she means, not freedom. I swam fine, don't you get it? O death, my mother is elegant, alive, entering the blue hole of evening alone. You could reach into the frame, pull her out. O death, I've been crueler, I've watched. Black existential exegesis. This engine and cog business is wigged out. I want nothing we're owed from the ship gig, thence the land we're on. Modern sound weaned off our cowrie and cached aged conjure. Land whereon our woe is chic and wanted. Shout out to every nigga cajoled into winging it in a crowd, crowing about being the hewer and the hewer's subject. Oh, my aching chore choir due upon our ochre echo throughout this land, this cadence gag, our ego greeted upon and caged. Grace is our odd crowd which encores green and geodes. Shout out to every nigga dodging age by ignoring human genre fiction gore, ergo we're nowhere, reneging on being owned and renewed. weighing nothing like race. Shout out to every nigga eroding off the edge of something else, gossamering in the air. States of decline. The room is dying honey and lemon rind, soured light. My grandmother sits in her chair, sweetening into the blue velvet. Domestic declension is the window that never opens, the paint peeling, dusting the sill, and inhaled. It is an American love she lives in, my grandmother, rigored to televangelists and infomercials, losing the use of her legs, needing to be turned like a mattress. No one is coming for her. The dog is asleep in the yard, her husband obedient to the grease and garlic in the cast iron, salting her death in the wind house. I'll just read a few more for you. Thank you again for listening and being here. Yeah, it's real cool, especially since we're not in person. This is like the middle of the day. Yeah, thank you. Derrida Coleman. Were it possible, I would be naked. Of the nude philosophy, consider the globalization of the expensive American sound. Should we worry? We should work. I believe you're right. I distrust the word white, its sanctified propaganda. Repetition is my language of origin, the highest technology. Anyway, the body is only mine provisionally. For reasons that I'm not sure of, I'm convinced that before becoming music, music was only a word. I prefer to destroy the composer, renew the concept, extraordinary limitation, playing freedom. Bolaño Blue. The forest is bordered by the highway to the west and the railroad tracks to the east. Here, like a dead man, I never sleep. I'm the moon, soon the sea, darkening in apology. My sickness is antithetical, my accomplice or attempt, pride, rage, violence. For a long time I wondered what English meant. If it was worth its weight in enlightenment, everything slow and asthmatic, everything disgustingly still, frozen somewhere in the air. Maybe that's why I can't express want I what, two words strung together. Maybe that's why I lived alone and did nothing for 3 years. Loneliness is an aspect of human authorization, verbal egotism. I write to understand stillness, not to praise. To name is to please, to keep awake. All pleas to the highway, swells, bursts. I'm going to show a film now. I'm going to show a film now. Yesterday, to keep awake, I dreamed I lived inside the agitation of silence. A hollow building in Barcelona, the abandoned Mediterranean, blue, a tree turning the lights on and off. Occasionally it shook, the monkey applauding in the corner, fade to black. Everything gleams like the wind in the rocks. The sad stories I must tell you, the gesture that never came, the trigger pulled at the worst possible moment. Audience. Rigorous practice of listening, by which I mean we let the day pass between us without either of us saying go on or stay, saying much of anything. That when you did speak, it was in the language of birds, your hands raised as wings to your mouth, blowing in and out. The birds came from their high places among the pines, singing back to you. There was a man who you said nothing to but kissed his forehead after he'd caught us 3 fish, and the man who fixed your cars, who never spoke, the stranger you shared a cigar with in front of the grocery store. The way you held the package of red beans from your brother back home, I heard it all. Who knows how your brilliant uncles died, or how many people you saw given over to trees or left on the train tracks. When I ask you about fear, you take me to the nectarine tree where the beetles have eaten halfway through. I can't kill them, you say, but they'll destroy the whole yard. I'll just read two more if that's cool. And again, thank you so much for listening. And if you have a question, maybe you could put it in the chat, or I don't know. I guess that's how we do, because I can't hear you. But I appreciate you being here. On my way to you. Every day is an invitation into intimacy. I decide, leaving my house, that I will cross it, given the distance, being money myself and having none in the form of new shoes and all these holes in my jacket. I inherited this privacy, given what it's like to be an instrument, given each plant singing in its season, given the trees between. How can I tell you, given that you abide? I zeroed out in the field, given the no place of the soul, given the soul ringing in the forest hollows, given to ringing, being money myself given away, given the language this image system produces, given that distance, given how maroon the morning war sky I wake up in, owning nothing, being money myself, given that the block is mine, saith the red-eyed god slouched over, standing up in exquisite coats, given trouble and home in the city that slipped out one night, given uptown, Trinidad, KDY, wolves in Rock Creek, given to corn syrup spilling out the corner store, given the Technicolor hole of the corner store, given 7th and Florida, that chromophonic praise break at the intersection, given that happenstance touch, given the distance of money, I'm from nowhere where I'm from, being not moneyed myself and given to language, given and being let go, that distance, that I could cross it, given that you can hear me. A kind of wildness descends, and across the expanse the attendant wind drones its one fecund song. When I'm so tender in the thick of rot, I let all the morning wet spread a plague across this threadbare vessel that holds in what hums, what rushes beneath. Give as the ground gives. Make of me your groveling tongue, your dust, your possessing, never let up. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. And now we can transition to some questions if you have them, or comments, which you can write in the chat right there. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. I gotta catch up in the chat. Haven't been able to look at it, but thank you all so much. Yeah, really appreciate it. Oh, what's up, Ruth and Michael? I see y'all. Thank you for being here. Oh, that's cool. I see this comment. Somebody made in the chat saying that in Shona, a language in Zimbabwe, Gogo means grandmother. That's cool, man. That's real cool. I love how language does that, especially within the diaspora of blackness. Things tend to repeat and change meaning. That's pretty cool. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can put them there. I see these comments. Thank you all so much. That's real nice. Um, this is such a funny way to interact, uh, but I appreciate it. Yeah, there's a question that says, "Can you talk about your use of repetition?" Um, yeah, yeah. I'm interested in repetition because it and especially in go-go music, I mean, it creates this kind of entropic sound. You know what I mean? The sound that folds in on itself. That is, in my opinion, like necessarily a black sound. And I really dig that. So I dig the idea of layering and repetition and the kind of space that can create. You know what I mean? How the space kind of the sound makes the space fold in on itself. And especially like in poems, I think there's a way that repetition and anaphora, for example, can create this almost like a trance-like state of being within the poem, but also this idea to escape beyond the direct meaning of a word. Yeah, I think that's how it is for me. There's some questions here that I can read. Now that I have the time and it's just me talking, I think everyone should read the poet Christopher Gilbert, who wrote the book Across the Mutual Landscape, and then was something published posthumously is this book called Turning into Dwelling, which includes like a later manuscript of his compiled by some other poets who dig him. His first book won the Walt Whitman Prize in 1983 and was published by Grey Wolf. He's an incredible poet, and I hope that everyone reads him. Yeah, and he was someone who I didn't read him before I wrote this book or while I was writing poems for this book, but I found his book in a used bookstore in Baton Rouge a few years ago after I had written all these poems that would make up this book, and it felt like we were already in conversation. Yeah, and I really appreciate that kind of idea of being among this chorus of voices that is trying to essentially make the same sound together, and across time in that way. So I count him as my among my literary lineages, and one of the people who's definitely in the room writing with me, even when I didn't know it. The years that I didn't know his poetry, he was still in the room, and I appreciate that. Okay, there's a question here from Seth that says, "Are you money or nature or both? How?" I'm not money. I don't think I'm money. Um, I'm definitely part of nature. You know what I mean? We all are. We're made from all those things. I think it's a powerful thing to kind of dissolve into that state of being where you can see yourself as a tree. You know what I mean? You see yourself, on the level of a tree, or even like a piece of grass or anything. Just putting yourself in that mind state. That's some of where I went to get into this book. But I don't think that. I think that necessarily. Maybe you're talking about the one of the poems I read on my way to you, where I talk about being money. Yeah, I think I'm speaking more globally and historically about the kind of capital that blackness is, and the kind of production that Black people are expected to do, whether that's through entertainment or intellectual or spiritual work. It's all work. Um, so that's what I'm speaking of. But I don't think I'm money. I know I'm not, and I try to liberate myself from that concept daily if I can, if I can get there. But it is hard to get there given the distractions that we, continue to have, and the desire to be, uh, to look outside of ourselves for reassurance. But this is just my, I got the mic, so I'm just gonna talk wild. But yeah, let's see. Another question here says, "You said I as a plural state of being. Can you talk about how that works in terms of writing a poem from an I perspective?" Yeah. Um, in that, in the sense that the I is necessarily, myself and someone else. It's necessarily a bunch of other things. Something that I really dig about the nature of repetition, which I think ties into this question, is this idea that within poetry and maybe other forms of writing, I'm not as practiced, but I know definitely in poetry there's this opportunity for the I, the lyric I, to be polyvocal in that way. And some of that, for me is related to just my affinities and the sounds that I grew up hearing: go-go music, gospel music, jazz or Black improvisational musics, and any of those. But I think that the I. Some people can see the I as limiting, and I think there could be like pushback from that point of view. Maybe it's like overly confessional, but I think the I is pretty powerful because it also gives a chance for the person reading or receiving the poem to step outside themselves. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Here's another one. Oh, asking if I meditate often. Is your writing meditation on your life? Yeah. I mean, I try to meditate. And I think that there are things that I do that are meditative. Um, if I have presence with myself and presence with what I'm doing, you know what I mean? If I can remain in the time of my action, I think that's a form of meditation. And then I don't know if writing can be a meditation on my life, but I try not to uh, think about it only in that way. I think that sometimes my writing is born from curiosity. Um, so a lot of the poems in Inheritance were born from the state of being curious about what I was reading, what I was hearing, who I was interacting with, which are of course necessarily drawn from my experience. So yeah, I think that my life is what I have because that is what we have. Um, yeah. Thank you for the questions. I said before I was from DC, but I live in New Orleans now, which is pretty cool. Um, haven't been here for too long, but still looking to build community down here. So maybe if you're in New Orleans or know people here, you should hit me up. Yeah. Okay, here's one. Best writing advice you received? Yeah, I think when I was 15 or 16 maybe. No, I must have been 16. I was, with a group of people in DC who were writing poems, people around my age, and a poet came to speak to us, and he said, "Come in through the window and not the door," which I thought was incredible, and I've kept that, which is, a testament to staying new, you know what I mean, and staying kind of open to seeing another possibility of entering into something. Yeah, I really dig that. And then another really good piece of writing advice that I had, I was at the Callaloo Creative Writing Workshop at Brown in 2015. Yeah, 2015 with Ivy Francis and Greg Parlow, where I met some really good friends. But one piece of advice that Ivy gave us, it might have been the last day of her workshop, or it could have been the first. I'm not sure now, but the and I'm gonna essentialize because I don't remember it verbatim, but she said to staying in community with people is really important. Finding your people is very important to your writing. So that's been a big part of my life too. And the people who I consider great friends are people who also write and think about language. Yeah. Okay, here's another question. What inspires you to write? If it wasn't for poetry, how else were you going to express yourself? Oh man, yeah, I mean, I just happen to write poetry, you know what I mean? Like, I'm interested in a lot of different things, a lot of different forms of art making. I think that, I think now, I'm in this space where I'm really open to like how the creative impulse or even just like the poetic impulse moves through my body. So it could be in building something, it could be like in drawing a blueprint, for example, it could be in writing an essay. But I'm interested in the physical nature now. So I'm interested in building structures that kind of mimic the syntax of a poem, or putting someone inside something that mimics the necessary intimacy of like a speaker and a reader or receiver of a poem. Yeah, but I don't think that I think I was always a poet, you know what I mean? No matter what I do, or anyone who's a poet, what they do is kind of the sensibility is that of a poet. And I don't take that lightly, I think it is like I said, it's a deep honor to be open to language in this way and be open to inspiration in this way. It's a deep honor. And I'm a young person, so I'm still learning how to use that. Yeah. Thank you for these. These are great questions. Thank you so much. Maybe you'd be interested to hear what I'm reading. I just started reading again last night. Robin Costello's Voyage of the Sable Venus, which is incredible. And then I'm also reading, I keep reading, Portrait of Picasso, Gertrude Stein's, If I Told Him, Portrait of Picasso, which is just a really, really great poem. Okay, here are two more questions. How did I decide on Inheritance as a title for my collection? It kind of just came out one day before I even knew that I would, before these poems were put together as a book, because I wasn't writing a book, you know what I mean? Like, I was just writing individual poems that happened to, sound well together. And one day it just kind of came to me. Yeah, I was probably in the process of cooking or taking a walk or something like that, but I understood that would be the title. It wasn't a big, it wasn't like a big decision or anything. It just kind of happened organically. Yeah. Okay, here's another one. When you are creatively stuck, what do you do to get back to your writing? And if you hit trauma when you write and block emotionally, what do you do? Man, yeah, I mean, taking a walk is helpful. Listening to music. Right now, I really fuck with the Ohio Players and New Birth. Yeah. But I don't know. I think it's. I try to do something else. You know what I mean? Like, at the same time, I don't want to distract myself from what I'm doing. You know what I mean? If I come up against something that's emotionally intense, which I think the process of creation is necessarily emotionally intense. It's a spot where I can learn. You know what I mean? Right now, I'm in this process of relearning my language, you know what I mean, or learning a new language even to write. Um, yeah, yeah. So that is filled with like many moments of maybe feeling blocked, or um, something that could come across as a block, but I just like have to have patience with myself, which is, an ongoing process. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. There's another one. How do you put yourself away to say, all right, let's publish, or just show the world? Um, I think it just kind of aligns. You know what I mean? I think when when that time is ready, it just kind of aligns. I think like I'm not really thinking about audience when I write. I'm thinking about the process of creation. But I also know that it is important to share. And I think that I've been real, I guess, fortunate to be in a situation where like the alignment with like when I'm done with something and I know it's ready to be shared, that someone has offered a space for that particular thing. Yeah. My favorite fictional character. Um, hmm. Well, I've been reading the book A Little Life for a long time now, and I like all those characters. All those guys are guys I really connect with. Um, yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, old school. That music, man, it's everything. Let's see. Okay, this question here. I think I'm seeing a chat much later than y'all, so I apologize. Um, what's coming down the pipeline? What are you working on? Yeah, I'm working on some essays about gentrification and go-go music and gender and genre, which are necessarily linked in a lot of ways, and transportation, public transportation, and then also I'm trying to build these like far out telephone booths that kind of mimic this public and private intimacy that poems can have. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that's about all I'm working on. Trying to learn how to build things and also write blueprints, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna read two more poems, I think, and then we can say peace. All right. Cool. Oh, maybe there's another question there. What's next? Yeah, just writing these essays about go-go music and gentrification. Um, yeah, Kazim Ali, that's a good dude. He was a teacher of mine at Oberlin College. Yeah, one of my first poetry teachers outside of community space. Um, yeah, let me see. Make sure I'm not missing anything here. Thank you for being patient with me as I uh, use this technology. Yeah, okay, I'll read these poems. Semiotics. In the dream, I am my father riding through the tired countryside with a banjo playing itself in the passenger seat, strapped in like a baby. The light falling so thick it makes a brass bowl of the valley, the light articulating green to the day. I want to sing it real, what I saw with his eyes, like a river sings to an ocean, until the river is a cloud. Sing the song a cloud sings to a mountain. Sing it true and liquid the light falling. I resonate, I green, I steam ring and undo my face. I let the new light undo my face. I become my father's distance in the temple, the glinting Buddha head casting gold between the floor and his frayed shadow. His fallow voice repeats the mantra, leave, 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 as he passes glass beads between his fingers. My father rocks side to side in prayer. I become that groove. I weep as my father in devotion and anger. We write the same letter to my mother. You are, you did, you. I become my father as speed on a highway. The tape deck playing associations. Father is to fathomed as phantom is to what? The answers draw a sentence across the windshield as crude lines. I'm a banjo driving, trying to read the blueprint my father left. I think it was his voice. Alright, I'll just read one more. Art movie. Red is a secret in the trees. The train passes through the trees in Alabama. Red earth, red earth. The winter light consumes the field. The light silvers, the light relieves. The light thrown as dust upon the field. I put my ear in. I crack an egg, and a saxophone that tells on me, yells at me, comes out. No yoke. The train hollers to stop. The train stops, still loads new passengers, but the conductor won't let me get off and kiss you. You know that's what I haunted to do. The stage is the window circle between us, the emergency exit door. I keep you in my ear and give you how I'm doing and what I want to eat were I not on the train. You and your white boots. You tell me what else could come out of an egg. Women all the way down, holding waists. The train is a place going by, strictly passing through. I touch a stranger's wrist going back to my seat. The whole train becomes a garment I put on. I touch indiscriminately. I can't stay, I tell the dog, waving from your convertible. None of the windows open. I held your gaze until I couldn't. In the previous scene, I took you to the slip until we were shining tunnels for sound. I took your sound for my name, never asked what I called myself. Cool, I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening to me and being here, engaging me in this way. Yeah. I hope that we can connect in another virtual space or in the real, in the world of touching if we can in the future. Again, my book is Inheritance. You can get it from Alice James Books website or your local bookstore or your library. Do not buy it on Amazon. And if price is something real for you, just email me or contact me. I have a website. It's TaylorJohnsonPoems.com. Yeah. I think that's it. All y'all are amazing people for being here in the middle of your day. And I hope that you are drinking water and staying healthy. And peace to you. Thank you.